Okay, great. So now we can start, inshallah. If I manage to, okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the story of us as narrated in Quran in the form story of Joseph. And inshallah, we will continue with the second chapter that I call as the prison, because at the end, we will see that we will end up, if we act properly, just the opposite of the real world. If you act nicely, you will go to your prison to be saved. So these are all spoilers. Otherwise, you will, continue living your life happily after. So in the first chapter, we saw how we end up, or we put people into well. And now our destination is the prison, and inshallah we will reach there. So this is a long story narrated in Quran. So even the second chapter is just the part between well and the prison. It's a long journey. It's around, I guess, 16, maybe 17 verses. So if you don't mind, let's read them all together from beginning to end, so that we will have the background. But don't worry, we will not study like the entire set of verses, because it will take forever. So, but for the part that we will study specifically, let's have a background at least, and read all verses till, I guess, the verse 35, including 35. We will stop there. So I need a volunteer like Abdurrahman. So it's a named and forced volunteer. So Abdurrahman, if you don't mind, so it will be a video. So inshallah, you will read as verses flows in screen. So whenever you are ready, if you keep your silence, I will take it as I am ready, and I will start, inshallah.
Is there background music though?
Oh, there's a background music, but I will, put it down so that we can hear you nicely.
I'll try. So much pressure. Should I read the English?
You can start with when it, start flowing. Just try to sound down.
And there came a caravan. Then they sent their water drawer, and he let down his bucket. He said, "Good news, here is a boy." And they concealed him as a merchandise, and Allah is all-knower of what they do. And they sold him for a very low price, a few dirhams, and they were concerning him of those keen to give up. And the one from Egypt who bought him said to his wife, "Make his residence comfortable. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son." And thus we established Joseph in the land that we might teach him the interpretation of events. And Allah is predominant over his affair, but most of the people do not know. And when he reached maturity, we gave him wisdom and knowledge, and thus we reward the good doers. And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. She closed the doors and said, "Come, you." He said, "I seek the refuge of Allah. Indeed, he is my sustainer, who has made good my residence. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed." And certainly she desired him, and he desired her, had he not seen the proof of his sustainer. and thus that we should avert from him evil and immorality. Indeed, he was of our sincere servants. And they both rushed to the door, and she tore his shirt from the back, and they found her husband at the door. She said, "What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your wife, except that he be imprisoned or a painful punishment?" Joseph said, "It was she who sought to seduce me," and a witness from her family testified, "If his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and he is of the liars. But if his shirt is torn from the back, then she has lied, and he is of the truthful." So when her husband saw his shirt torn from the back, he said, "Indeed, it is of your plot. Indeed, your plot is great. Joseph, ignore this, and you ask forgiveness for your sin. Indeed, you were of the sinful." And women in the city said, "The wife of Al-Aziz is seeking to seduce her slave boy. He has impassioned her with love. Indeed, we see her in a clear error." So when she heard of their scheming, she sent for them and prepared for them a banquet, and gave each one of them a knife and said, "Come out before them." And when they saw him, they greatly admired him and cut their hands and said, "Forbid Allah, this is not a man, this is none but an angel." She said, "That is the one about whom you blamed me, and I certainly sought to seduce him, but he firmly refused. And if he will not do what I order him, he will surely be imprisoned and will be of those debased." He said, "My Lord, prison is more desirable to me than what they invite me to, and if you do not avert me from their plot, I might incline toward them and be of the ignorant." So his Lord responded to him and averted from him their plot. Indeed, he is all hearer, all knower. Then it appeared to them after they had seen the signs that they should surely imprison him for a time. We cannot hear you if you're talking, Brother Birkan.
Okay. Jazakallah khair for your lovely reading.
Lovely video.
That was great. Like your, toning and everything was definitely great. You can be whatever they call it, voice actor. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Okay, inshallah, let's continue. So if you are not familiar with the movie, by the way, you can ignore the background images. They wouldn't mean much to you. Sorry, some of them are like a subtle references. Okay, let's continue. So I guess we all got the overall, let's say, the story as it is narrated in the Quran. So somebody found the caravan, finds Yusuf, who is in depth of the well, and they took him, let's say, lightly. They don't give him much value, and then they sell him to someone who takes him. He sees some value in him, but not as a definitely messenger or anything very valuable. He just say, he's a nice guy. We may use him. And then the lady sees the beauty in him. Again, another kind of value, but still not the value that he deserves. And so on and so forth. It goes like this, and then we see some tension between desires. So a kind of love story, and then imprisonment. So this is the background. But as we always say, we try to read Quran at the present. So it's not, long time ago at a far away galaxy, but rather it is at the present time and in the desert of the life as it takes place in our life. So let's keep this in mind as usual. And I picked a few verses, only just try to keep the discussion within an hour. Of course, considering that we started 10 minutes, so I give myself extra 10 minutes. But let's see whether we can manage it or not. And if you are, as probably you are familiar with the Zoom now, if you want to speak, just raise your hand. If you cannot raise your hand, do something else. If you cannot, press any button, just start speaking. Doesn't matter. Otherwise, you can also use chat screen to share your thoughts. So let's start with the first verse that I picked, inshallah. If there are some other verses that you want to, specifically study, please go ahead and suggest. So one volunteers to read the Arabic part since Abdul Rahman gave us his beautiful voice. So Aisha Nur, I guess, she raised her hand. So go ahead, please, if you'd like to read the Arabic part, we will be more than happy.
I was just volunteering Abdul Rahman again.
Oh, okay, I see.
You're more than welcome to read it.
Okay, how about you, Yusuf? Would you like to read the Arabic part? Just, to hear a different voice, inshallah.
وَاشْتَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ.
And they sold him for a very low price, a few dirhams or cents, and they were concerning him of those keen to give up. So they are ready to give up, right? Speaking of the people who found Yusuf in the well, so they just took him as a merchandise that, to earn a few cents or dollars to a very low price. So there's this emphasis on very low price here, right? And they trying to give away or give up of him. So throughout the story, we see that Yusuf was valued much lower than what he deserved. And this is just like, our side, human side. We talk about different aspects, different sides of the human last week. And our side, our aspect, our dimension, our, I don't know, part that seeks wisdom in the creation, that try to seize what is behind all these events, what happens around us, that we have such a connection with the reality, through which we have like numerous, infinitely many different type of links, different kind of type of connections with the reality, with the universe, which sometimes we call as ruh, as our spirit. Quran, explains it as spirit breath into the clay, spread from the creator. And so we have this aspect which kind of resonates with the creation in the sense that, whatever it is there in the creation, it's also there in us, so that we can match and see what is, pleasant, what is not pleasant, what takes us to the right path, and so on. So we have this, ability But usually, almost every time, we devalue, demode its status. Right? It's just there as we call it as, for instance, conscience. Right? It's a little voice in us, sometimes warn us and so on, but it's just part of a small part of human, let's say. It is good for survival. It is good for have a good and nice social fabric. Sometimes it says help people, sometimes it says do not waste things and so on, but that's all. And in practical life, there are many other things that we value much more, like our intellect, our emotions, our I'm not trying to identify parts of the human and say define a hierarchy, but in practical life, we say, for instance, my success in work is much important than whether I have a truthful, rightful connection with the creation or not. Or whether when I look at the creation, everything in the creation takes me to my sustainer or not, is always comes after my success at work, my success at classes, my success as my status in the society, among my friends, and so on. Even to be more realistic, the way our hair looks is more important than how I look at the trees or birds or my car and what I understand from it. The way I put my shirt on is more important than the way I walk on the street and make a connection with the creation and through which with creator. So we always sell our ability to make the connection with our sustainers through the creation for a very low price. We say, our belief is there for 5 daily prayers at most, plus sometimes for fasting. Okay, plus, we shouldn't gossip. Plus, we shouldn't lie, we shouldn't steal. But the rest of the life, which is usually 99% or at least 90% of the life, this real value of us is not there. It's not even relevant because we sell it to a very low price. Sometimes people see the value in us, or we see the value in other people, just like the wife of the nobleman El-Aziz saw the value of Yusuf, but the value that she saw was the beauty, nothing more. Similarly, the people look at me, or I look at people, I see wisdom, but not the real sense of, like a real kind of wisdom. I say, oh, she is very wise, or what is the word? I forget, sorry. She's very creative. She's very something, I say. I admire her. I admire him, right? I say, oh yeah, he's very handsome. He's very tall. He's very fast, whatever. These are the values that I see. I say, oh, he's very hardworking. These are good qualities, definitely, just like being beautiful or a good son, helping, with the work that they have. That's what nobleman taught, right? He would help us. These are good qualities, but not the real human quality that gives us the value. So any comments so far? Please don't be shy. Don't undervalue yourself, your thoughts. Please, Atik, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment about what I'm undervaluing, especially during this quarantine. That is my time. Finding myself at home all day, I get bored. without working from home. Like I'm not even working. Like I'm just bored out of my mind, and I get distracted easily. Just find I just find myself with too much time. Like just take it. If there's anyone out there, take my time. Watch this, go watch that. Just try to keep myself from being bored. And this is especially like in light of being in a holy month and so close to Ramadan. That's definitely the wrong approach, but I don't know, I can't resist it.
Thank you. Even the fact that like a human being, Vice Jordan, the Khalifa, can be bored in this creation. It happens to all of us, definitely. Maybe more with me than anyone here. That it shows that we are so foreign to ourselves. That all these infinitely many connections we have with the creation and with our Creator, none of them are utilized. Yusuf, please go ahead.
Also, there's a general theme in Quran which says, don't sell my signs for cheap. And this reminds me of, for example, let's say you were just exiting Mecca market. There was somebody who was asking for food or money. You said, okay, I will not give you money, come together with me. You bought some food. So you even put some time for that person. You didn't simply give money. Then you come home, you say to your wife, oh, there was this person that needed person and I helped him and not only gave him money, I was just getting out of my schedule, spared him 5 minutes of myself and then bought him food. So what I am doing in here is I am selling as if it is mine, this goodness, so much of a soft heart I have. In exchange of what? Just my wife saying, oh, you are awesome. Just hearing this single voice, single word, I am selling so much of a valuable thing. I guess this is also something that humans do. I mean, we always do.
Great example indeed. And, how there's an example of being a low price is the way, at least I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong. So what we get with such an experience is, as you said, is just a tiny bit of awesomeness. And it ends in a few seconds, in a few minutes, at most in one day. Nobody would remember you, right? Including your wife. Remember your awesomeness. And that's all you get. But when you don't sell it to such a low price by attributing to yourself, when you realize the truth in it and say that such a strange experience I had. There was a guy that I don't even know. He was needy. And as a external person, I don't even care with about the guy. I don't even know him. But for some reason, somebody put a feeling in me, created a feeling in me that I should help him. And then through this feeling, through this understanding, I find myself putting my hand into my pocket, spending time, giving him money or buying him food, whatever, all these interactions. And guy was happy and his need was sustained. And I was happy without even knowing what I'm doing. So a needy person is their sustenance, is there through something unexpected, like myself. So whoever's creating all these things must be so compassionate, both for me and for him, sustaining his needs, also giving me this pleasure, So such a beautiful creator, such a lovely sustainer, I say. And this understanding stays with me until and hopefully further beyond my grave. Forget about seconds or days. It is with me all the time, and I can utilize it every time I have a need. I would say, just like I experienced before, I have a need, but for my creator, who can even create feelings or desires in people, can sustain my need within an extraordinary setting. So I have hope with every need I have. So this is the real value of the experience, but instead you sold it for the awesomeness, which is not even sincere. Your wife probably, trying to do her job and just not to make you upset. Oh yeah, you are awesome, and shut up and sit there. So this is the price you get. So, but in the story, we see that there's someone who gives him or give us the real value. Says, this is all part of your training. I'm taking care of you. I'm giving you the wisdom. I'm giving you the knowledge. I'm giving you guidance. I'm sending you from the skies, metaphorically speaking, a Furqan, the knowledge of what is right, what is wrong. I'm sending you life, as we studied last week, from the skies in form of rain. I am there to take care of you, and I know your true value. Your true value is being a servant or abd of me, of your sustainer. So this is your true value. I know it, and I show it to you. I don't leave you alone. I give you wisdom and knowledge. I teach you, as we saw last week, and also the verses in the following parts, that we are taught to interpret the events around us. So we were saying that, we have all these infinitely many connections with the creations. We cannot even utilize them, that we get bored. But our creator, our sustainer, tells us that I will teach you how to utilize them. I will teach you how to speak birds, as we saw when we studying the story of the Solomon. I will teach you how to speak with the wind, how to, get, I don't know what is the right word, but riding the wind. I will teach you how to sail in seas, how to reach the skies, how to look at the trees and your friends and see what is beyond them, what is taking place beyond them. So I know your true value. I know what you are capable of. I know what you can do. So do not sell yourself. Do not sell your, let's say, spirit or your heart or your mind for a very low price, because you are much more than this. Any comments so far? Please go ahead, Hatice.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for sharing your reflections. I was also thinking about how, I guess, as far as these two verses are concerned, I guess in order to, in order to feel that I am selling myself for a low price, I guess there has to be first a metric for which I determine my own value. And what is it that I'm basing my own value on? How am I determining my own worth? Just backtracking a little bit right now. But then I do find in myself inherently, I want to be valuable. I would never consciously want to be sold, nor would I want to be sold, especially not at a cheap price. I find within myself this need to say, yes, I don't want to be cheap. I want to be something that is that is, I guess, utilized for its purpose, if you will. But in situations where I find that I am discontent with myself, whether, you know, this is boredom or lack of peace in my heart or some sort of dissatisfaction I have within myself, I guess in that situation, I realize that I am selling myself for a low price. And I realize, like, in a way, I have to, not intentionally, but I have to find myself in a situation where I sell myself for a low price so that I realize that, one, I want to be valuable, and two, that state of being discontent with myself, in that, like, that situation is necessary for me to then reevaluate myself and turn myself towards the source of value, if you will. And so connecting it to this verse, we gave him wisdom. I mean, when he reached maturity, I understand maturity as like consciousness, I guess, like being aware of yourself and being aware that you're aware, like that level of consciousness, I guess. We gave him wisdom and knowledge. And I guess, like, so I realized that he is the wise one when I realized that in the state of being bored, for example, in that state, therefore it is there for me to realize that that state of being is necessary, and thus that state of being is also wise, as far as I'm concerned, for me to then redirect myself. And I guess first and foremost, you know, question how I'm valuing myself, but also, you know, become aware of my reality. And I think similarly with knowledge as well, like when I sell myself cheaply, since it's not done intentionally, I lack knowledge there. I lack some sort of wisdom and knowledge in that situation. So when I become aware of that state of dissatisfaction, then I can say, yes, he must be the wise and the knowledgeable one, because through this dissatisfaction or boredom that I feel, now I realize that that now I am given the knowledge to know that I need to reassess, redirect myself. I am made to know. But those are just some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. These were very helpful and nice thoughts. Thank you. So if there are no other comments, I will continue, just waiting for a few seconds. Okay, again, like, if you're not familiar with the movie, please forget about the references in background. So Yusuf, please go ahead with the Arabic part, and then I will read the English, inshallah.
وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون.
Thank you. And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. She closed the doors and said, "Come, you." He said, "I seek the refuge of Allah. Indeed, He is my sustainer, who has made good my residence, or He has made my residence good, comfortable. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed." So, and she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. So that's interesting. Like, we live in our house, in our, the universe, and there's something out there trying to seduce us. She even goes, to the extent closing the doors, trying to confine us so that we cannot escape, and say, come, you. So to be honest, this sounds very familiar to myself when I look at outside, like outside, not outside my physical house, but outside myself, everything around me, and even whatever inside me is there calling me, saying that, Birkan, don't you, enjoy life? Don't you want to enjoy life? Just lose yourself in the moment. Just lose yourself in the world, the life. There are all these pleasures out there, right? There are all these status that you can achieve. There's all these achievements that you can reach. Success, family, the children, money, or acceptance, being approved, being agreed upon. These are all things which are very much attractive to us, right? Trying to seduce us. The world call us to herself. Come, you, she says. And the doors are mostly closed. We say, this is the system, this is the life I born in. I don't have my choice. I have to work, I have to X, I have to Y. I have this desire in me which, takes me to the success. I want to be successful, I want to be appreciated. There is nothing wrong with this. There is no escape from that. What do you want? Like, just cut my connections with the life and be a monk in a monastery somewhere? This is not the life. So there's no doors to escape. And seduction is always there, calling us, come. Sometimes in form of, the pleasures, attractiveness, sometimes in terms of, let's say, guilt, complaining, saying that what kind of, the academician you are, you have to work hard. You're just wasting the resources we have. Everybody has to work hard to contribute to the society. And working hard meaning, you should do whatever we say, we tell you to do. You are not doing your part. You are just being irrational. All these religious people, they're just causing trouble. Don't you see all these, the wars, terrorist activities, so on and so forth, calling us to an alternative world, seducing us, either through our desires or our reasoning or our feeling of guilt. This call is always there. Any comments here?
Assalamualaikum. Thank you so far for this really engaging presentation. I never knew I'd see the day where I compared Palpatine to the seductions in my life. But yeah, it's very useful. I'm like this speaks to me a lot in terms of, as you were saying, the various different seductions in my life that I may face, and how I go about in response to them. It's interesting to me that you also mentioned the feeling of guilt, as if I understood you correctly, as in the same category as those other things. I mean, that's where it kind of gets a little murky for me, because yes, sure, I mean, I definitely feel guilt all the time, especially all the time in terms of productivity mostly. And it seems like when it's, I'm in quarantine, not much really changes in terms of my schedule, except for not going outside maybe once or twice a week. But it seems like the guilt escalates even more because, technically I have more time. But what I'm trying to say is, I mean, guilt is a feeling that I have, and feelings are usually means of, I associate feelings with means of guidance, something to tell me something, something to be read. But I mean, when I think of it as something to seduce me, it almost antagonizes that feeling of guilt. And I'm trying to see how to reconcile that with my prior approach of seeing it as something not antagonistic. So I don't know, just any clarifications. I'm not saying that you're necessarily saying that, but thank you.
Jazakallah khair. That is a great point. So I guess we shouldn't categorize our feelings as, these are the ones which take us to the light side, and these are the ones which takes us to the dark side. But rather, like all of them, as you said, are there as messengers, as to be read. And as the verse continues, he said, I seek the refuge of Allah. Indeed, he is my sustainer who has made my residence good, comfortable. We have this constant connection with our sustainer calling us on the other side, right? Saying that, you should seek refuge from what you are being called. And when you take in this way, even these calls from the outside, which tells you that, forget about your sustainer, just, get lost in the moment, get lost in the production, get lost in success or whatever, they also becomes part of a bigger plot in which they teach you how to seek refuge to your sustainer. So we shouldn't take them as, or any feeling with us as, these are the bad things and I have some good things, I have to, make them fight. This is not the case, definitely. We will have our feeling of, being successful, and by itself, it's nothing wrong, it's nothing bad. We have this, our guilt, when we are not productive and just laying down on our bed. There's nothing wrong with this, which is good. But the point is where these feelings or our desire to success is calling to us. Where? Is it calling to us to the worldly success or worldly guilt? Or is it calling us to the taking refuge to our sustainer? So if my guilt is telling me that what are you doing is wrong, seek refuge from your God. This is the right way, not being a wrongdoer. But if, or my feeling is not a wrongdoer in this case, but if my desire or my guilt is telling me, the message that I read there is telling me, yes, Birkan, you should work harder and become a better professor, then it's a wrongdoer. And it will not succeed because, as Yusuf gave the example, the most it will take us is a unsincere awesomeness. That's the most it will take us. So it will not succeed. But if it is not a wrongdoer calling us to take refuge with our sustainer, then it will succeed. But this is how I understand. Yusuf, please go ahead.
Another way to take this locking the doors and inviting, one way to say it is, as you said, no other option is being given to you. So this is one way to take it. The other one is this conversation is taking place in private. So sometimes it's a feeling in you as if the conversation takes place within you. And I'm saying that, yes, I want to be successful. From outside, I might pretend as if, yeah, as a believer, believers needs to do this job. So whatever, I'm just providing different excuses for that. Or I might say that, yeah, I'm going to do this and that. So it's going to become useful for whatever. But deep inside, I know what's going on. And this is also the other party knows why she, in this case, is inviting what she's inviting to, saying that you are going to be famous, you are going to be important, you are going to be appreciated, and this is what you're looking for. But of course, it's not going to sound nice if you explicitly say this outside of the door as well. So what are you going to do? Are you going to just agree and go with the invitation? Or are you going to say that, no, I will escape from outside of this door and shout out the what was going on inside the doors? Meaning, within me, I was having this conversation, this insincere conversation, and I could have pretended, but I think this was wrong. So I would like to get out of this door and as if seek for sincerity, because inside here, there's not much sincerity.
Jazakallah khair. That was a great point. Alhamdulillah. So we're waiting for a few seconds if there are other comments, otherwise I will continue. Okay, and then what happens? So yes, we say, okay, I seek refuge to Allah, but there is also this tension, right? She desires him and he desires her. Some mufassir, like some translators, some scholars take the second part as he would desire her if he didn't see or he had not seen. But many others simply take it as he desired her, without trying to be apologetic or any, kind of reasons. So I prefer this translation. She desired him and he desired her. And like when you look at the Arabic, it's just she desired him and he desired her. The only reason I take this translation is because, I'm trying to read it to myself, and most of the time I see that I also, although, I maybe take my lightsaber out and say that, oh no, this is wrong, but at the same time I know that deep inside, I know that this desire is with me as well. So there's one comment from Patty. Okay, she said she needs to leave. May Allah bless you. And when you are done, you can visit this trailer. Okay, inshallah, let's not forget. I will copy the text, otherwise we will lose it. Sorry. And yes, the desire is, at least initially, let's say, is reciprocal, right? She desires us, the word calling us, or our desires of success is calling us, and we say, yes, this is also what I want. So there's this tension. And as Yusuf said, like, especially when it is intimate, when the doors are closed, it's easier to see that the desires against her is also with us. Any comments here? Please, Atiko.
So yeah, I get the, the desires part, but I don't really understand how the proof of his sustainer prevented him from following through with his desires. I don't really understand that.
Inshallah, we will come to this point.
Okay.
But thank you for the question. It shows that there's an engagement, there's a excitement, alhamdulillah. So, okay, so what happens then? He sees the truth, right? He sees the true face of what's happening there. So there are different, of course, readings. One reading is, as the background image suggests, that you see the ugliness of the event, or ugliness of the desire, ugliness of what is suggested to you, or what happens in the experience that you have within this desire itself. You find your creator, you find your sustainer. You look at your, as Aishanur was asking about, your sense of guilt or sense of success. You look at it, first you try to attribute it to yourself or to the outside world. You say, this is the system, that I have to be successful. But then once you realize that this feeling of success is something being created in you, that it doesn't belong to you or it doesn't belong to outside world, it is created in you. So it's a messenger sent to you from your creator. That's the only explanation you have. So within the feeling of the success or desire for success, you find your sustainer. And you start reading it, and the entire experience, the call from the outside world, including, as a message from your sustainer. You say that within this experience I have, I see the proof of my sustainer. Because this feeling, this sense, or this desire is nothing but something being created. So you start reading what's happening there in the name of your creator, your sustainer who creates. Ikra, in the name of your Rab who creates, right? So again, that like within this experience, within this feeling of guilt, you find the proof of your sustainer. So it becomes not something, a plot against you, not a plot against you, but you take it as a part of your training, part of your education in this worldly life. You say, this is from my sustainer, so what I should do is seek refuge to my sustainer. So this is how I understand, but I know this doesn't answer your question completely. So if there are any other comments, I hope there are any other comments, you are more than welcome to share. Please go ahead. Okay, let's wait a few seconds. I'm sure there will be someone with a great interpretation. Yusuf, please go ahead.
Great interpretation, but I took this as a very insisting invitation, so I'll just give it a shot. So I guess in general, along the lines of what you were saying, so Rab, sustainer in here, in previous discussions, we have also been trying to understand this as educator, God. So as I look at my life, my provider, my sustainer, my educator. So if I look at it from that perspective, what am I going through right now? That's a new opportunity in life, and it's very seducing. So if I take it on the face value, as Yusuf was in this case, being appreciated because of his beauty, if I also appreciate her beauty, world's beauty, apparent beauty, then I will fall for it. But if I take it from this other perspective of the evidence or proof of my sustainer, now the perspective is totally changing. Because initially I will just look at it just for the sake of itself, but now I am looking at it for the sake of its maker, its creator. So my maker is making me go through this experience. What does he mean by that? What is the point in here? And where does this fit in my story of education? So I guess if I focus on this part of it, then I am being shown the proofs. But I need to have this, use my free will in this aspect to try to understand what is being said in here.
Jazakallah khair. Like, I loved your comment interpretation, but apparently Bushra didn't like it. So let's get rid of her. That's the way. Like, when somebody doesn't appreciate your comments, just get rid of her. So Jazakallah khair. Yes, that's really great. Like, I guess it all boils down to seeing your creator as your educator God, or sustainer, as your Rabb. I guess this concept of Rabb is so important, it's so central in Quran, that, like, without understanding it properly, I guess we will lose like a huge sense that is narrated or that is given in Quran. So Jazakallah khair. Thank you. So what happens, he's run and they both rush to the door and she tore his shirt from the back. So somehow, we try to escape, we seek refuge, but still there is a harm that we get. We lose our hand, for instance, or we lose our job, or something happens, or we stay working there and we lose a slight sense of dignity. So something happens. It's not from front, alhamdulillah, it's not torn from the front, it's back, but still there's one way or another, the hand reaches us. And this is usually what happens with me. Once I let the doors are closed, once I, dive into the world, there's always a slight or bigger harm that touches me. And they found her husband at the door. We will come to this part, but this hand touching me, I guess it's really important. And actually it will be another kind of proof for me. First, there was a proof that I see the ugliness or I see the creativeness of the feeling. I run away and then I get hurt. This hurt itself will act as another proof to me that what I was running away was something bad for me because it hurts me. So it's not like, a blind faith that, stay away from the worldly life, it is bad. But I also, when I try to, implement this, I see that it hurts me. It, tears my shirt. It tries to take my shirt off. And we we took this shirt last week as my connection with my creator, my consciousness of my creator, taqwa. And this worldly life is trying to take my garment of taqwa, garment of God consciousness, of me. And again, once I let the doors are closed, doors to be closed, somehow, from front, from back, from side, the hand touches me, reaches me. Any comments? Otherwise, I will continue. I'm waiting. Please don't be shy. And then Hatice, please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about like how to make sense of the inevitability of having my shirt torn. Because I guess, you know, just as we've been talking about as far as like guilt, for example, in and of itself is not bad, the feeling itself. So I need to utilize it properly. So when I take this tearing of my shirt, or if we take the understanding that the shirt is like God consciousness, then like is that a moment of like disconnection with my creator, that it almost seems like it happens like against my will though, because like I desire something and I try to go, you know, distance myself from it, but then it still, you know, gets me. So it almost seems like something undesirable is happening to me against my will.
Great point. Thank you. And this, like being out of my will, I guess it's always there to some extent, right? Like this coronavirus is out of my will, and it hurts me from one sense. And this, my interaction with the world burns me out of my will, but out of mercy. Because through this interaction, through this, you know, harm that I get, I learn about my creator, I learn about myself, I learn about the creation. So these apparently bad experiences that we have, even our tension with the worldly life is always, as Yusuf said, is always part of our education, always part of our training, our part of the schedule in our class. So yes, it has this one sense which is out of our will, but just like most of the things, that, you know, I will die out of my will. It hurts me. Does it hurt me? Yes, it does. But within this hurt, within this discontent, if I, you know, follow the Quranic wisdom, I find the pleasure, I find satisfaction. So as I said before, yes, the shirt is torn, but it becomes an evidence in the rest of the story, right? It becomes the evidence of truth. It becomes an evidence for me. I look at my shirt, it's torn, and I say the world or whatever is calling me is not the thing that I would be satisfied with. Shirt is always, you know, in this story represents kind of, it's like acts as an evidence, right? In the first part, they took the shirt to father, and father looked at the shirt and said, no, whatever you are telling is not true. And now I'm looking at my shirt, or the noble men and the household looking at my shirt, as we read at the very beginning of the story, at the very beginning of the presentation, the entire story that we read. People will look at the shirt, or I will look at the shirt, and the way it is torn, I will see an evidence of my creator. I will say that this is right, this is wrong. So it will act as a furqan, as a separation between good and wrong, right and wrong. So in the bigger picture, there's nothing wrong with the shirt being torn. There's nothing wrong that you being hurt by the world. So that's how I understand, at least. Waiting for a few seconds. Okay, and all these, contemplations, all these, the judgments, and also she says, what is the recompense of one who intended evil for your wife, and so on. Like world, or all these desires also try to justify themselves, or even lie, to the extent lying, say that, yeah, because I want your, success. What is wrong with this? Or it was you, applied this job, so give the right of the job, like you should work hard. It was you, who wanted X or Y. So there is this, contemplation, there is this, scaling what is right, what is wrong, and so on. And this happens when I face with a, what is the word? It's not husband, it's Sayyid, right? Where is it? Sorry. Yes, Sayyid. So when they face, when they see the Sayyid, or how would you translate Sayyid? The Lord, maybe? I don't know.
Yes, Lord.
Okay, Lord at the door. So the wise guy, the noble guy, whatever. So this is your moment of your contemplation. What happened to me? What I have been doing? Once you start questioning, once you start judging, then you start seeing the real face of things. But this judgment, contemplation of facing the Sayyid of your life, Sayyid of your existence, is the step that you have to take. And at the end, my Lord, prison is more desirable to me. After this contemplation, you say the prison is more desirable to me. With this prison, of course, it's not that, you say, okay, I'm not living anymore in this world. I'm quitting my job. I stopped working for my classes. But the way you make the connections is different now. You cut your relationship with the world in the sense that you leave all the norms that they try to impose on you. You continue working, but for other reasons. To see the beautiful names of your creator. You continue being a great student to see the beautiful names of your creator, because these are the only means that you know, at least. If one day your creator teaches you some other means, so another means to read his beautiful names, whatever it means for you, then you would follow it, of course. But for now, the only way for me, I know, is working. But I say, I deny all the, refuse all the norms that we defined out there. So I cut my connections, I confine myself in regard to these norms. Not in regard that, I go to a cave, become a monk or something. But instead, I put myself in the prison of education. And this prison, we know, in the rest of the story, will become a place of education for Joseph as well. Yusuf, please go ahead, and then we can complete.
So it looks like in here, Joseph is saying that what they consider as prison is much more lovely to me than what they consider as their paradise. Because the paradise that was being suggested in here was she inviting him to herself, or world inviting me to momentary joys. But from the other perspective, if you try to make sense of existence, so on and so forth, so you don't take your job as a quote unquote normal person would take it, from outside it looks like you're living like a, I don't know, wood or livestock. I mean, what sort of a life is that? As if you are, I mean, sometimes actually this is something we are questioning. Quarantine didn't change my life that much, because I'm hearing that my friends are getting bored at nighttime, or they start watching new TV shows. I say, what were they doing before? And now there's no extra time for me, for example, during this quarantine. My wife says we have been in quarantine long before. So it looks like I'm already living a prison-like life. So I guess this in here, when Joseph says, relative to the life that they consider as prison, it's much more lovely to me.
Oh, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. And I guess we are out of time already. So, okay, next week, inshallah, we will continue with the third chapter. We will skip some parts which takes place in the prison and directly jump to the third part with the shirt. So we will call it as palace. Inshallah, we will continue next week. Jazakallah khair.